With the first pick in the 2020 Overwatch League DRAFT, the Boston Uprising select... Every once in a while, this idea of an Overwatch League draft pops up on Twitter and Reddit, and I get it. The league is very clearly modeled after North American sports leagues like the NBA and NFL. There are plenty of traditional sports fans that watch the Overwatch League that are used to drafts deciding where up-and-coming talent go. For international fans, the idea of a draft is less common. The best soccer players can just sign wherever they want, while in America, insane players like Zion Williamson or Myles Garrett had to go to whatever team had the number one pick. So what about in the Overwatch League? Could a draft work? It's tricky, but let's talk about it. Here are some of the pros and cons I see to an Overwatch League draft happening. Keep in mind, I doubt the Overwatch League will ever have a draft system. What if? Let's start with some of the pros of a draft system. In theory, a draft system should increase parity in a league, helping the bad teams acquire talent and become good. There are some recent examples of teams improving through the draft. The Golden State Warriors, for example, built their core by drafting Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Harrison Barnes. Same can be said for the Green Bay Packers, who generally opt to build through the draft over signing big-name free agents, and that has paid off, not only with Aaron Rodgers, but new stars like Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. So in theory, whether we had a lottery system or an NFL-style draft, the worst teams would have first dibs on some of the top talent coming out of contenders. So players like Perfect and Pelican would get drafted by, let's say, Boston or London, instead of signing to whatever team made the best offer. So instead of Sparkle and Alarm signing with the teams they're currently on, they'd probably be on Florida and Washington as the number 1 and number 2 draft picks of last year. I get it. The system stops the good teams from endlessly getting better by signing fresh new talent, leaving the scraps for the struggling organizations. So, bad teams with good management can build through the draft. And even if they have a star, they have a window where they're under a rookie contract for cheap. So a team like the Valiant and Spitfire, that seem to be tight on the purse strings, can still acquire star-level talent while not getting outspent by the Shock and Fusion. This isn't perfect. There are tons of teams that have tried to build through the draft and it just didn't work. New York Jets, New York Giants, New York sports in general. You get the point. So obviously this isn't the perfect solution to all these teams' problems. Another pro is drafts are just fun, and I like the drama that draft picks bring, especially to trade deadline. Trades in the Overwatch League are generally not super exciting. Yeah, Gamzu getting traded was fun, but not as exciting as draft night trades or trades involving that extra dynamic of draft picks. Gamzu could have gotten traded for 2 first-round picks and a 4th rounder. That would be crazy, and it would lead us to talk about it for weeks. The added dimension of draft picks makes trades more interesting to me. A team could go full Los Angeles Clippers and trade away their future to acquire profit from Seoul Dynasty. But then, the Seoul Dynasty would have a war chest of draft picks they could use to get new players or package and acquire another star through a trade. I personally enjoy the added dimension and drama that draft picks bring. A draft system isn't without its issues. The biggest issue with a draft is it heavily limits player freedom. We've seen many times in sports that not every player is okay just going to the worst team in the league because they drafted them. Some will hold out, some will sabotage themselves in pre-draft workouts so they don't end up being picked number 1. Some players will try and force a trade 2 years into their rookie contract. This would be an issue in Overwatch League as well. If a player gets drafted by Boston, and the rookie contract is for 3 years, that player is stuck in a bad organization. Sorry, Boston, this is just an example. They would be stuck in a bad organization that they don't want to be in. They could try and force a trade, but that doesn't always work. They could try and hold out on draft day and during, preseason, but that's not guaranteed to work. Contracts would need to just be changed. There need to be a standardized rookie-scaled contract for draft picks based on where they're drafted. This means amazing players like Alarm can't get paid in their first year. There'd be no bidding war for Alarm, allowing him to go to whoever was willing to give him the bag or where he'd be happiest. For the NBA, that's not necessarily the biggest issue, because rookies can sign huge endorsement deals, or they can make crazy money on their second contract, and most of the time, they're guaranteed to be getting a second contract. It's not like the NBA is going to go out of business anytime soon. The Overwatch League and its teams don't have the money for this system, so players would just be getting shafted as rookies and second-year players as well. The player freedom argument to me is the strongest, and that's why I imagine a lot of people are against a draft system, and why I'm against a draft system coming to the Overwatch League. The entire contender system would need to be revamped as well. That's the biggest barrier, because at this point, establishing a contenders draft wouldn't really work. What happens to former Overwatch League players like Yakpung or Kelix? Would they just be considered free agents, free to sign wherever they want? Would they just be considered free agents because they're former Overwatch League players? What determines every given year's draft class? Do players need to declare for the draft? Is every player from every team eligible to be drafted? I just imagine contenders would need a huge structural change to make drafts even make sense. A draft wouldn't really work in Overwatch League, and it might not ever become the norm in esports. Esports does seem to lean more towards the international model than the American model when it comes to player movement, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So those are my thoughts on the pros and cons of an Overwatch League draft system. Let me know what you think in the comments, and it would be really dope if you liked and subscribed. It would mean a lot to me. And also, check out the Scrapyard Overwatch League Podcast. Me and my two bestest friends in the world talk about Overwatch League every week, and we're going to do a lot of cool stuff in the offseason. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.